So Diablo 4 came out with its new expansion, Lord of Hatred, which many of you probably already know. But I've been playing a lot of the game lately. I've really enjoyed Diablo, especially as someone who's played it since the original expansion. But I wanted to try to kind of give a different perspective on a review from what I've been kind of seeing from a lot of folks. I am someone who's a big Path of Exile fan as well. I've enjoyed Path of Exile 2 a lot. I've enjoyed its depth, but I've gotten to the point where I feel like Diablo 4 is probably the perfect casual RPG. Now, I think one of the things that's really made it casual friendly is just how easy it is to understand a lot of the systems that are going on here. When it comes to building your characters or what stats you want or things like that, everything is very straightforward. There isn't really a whole lot you have to really think about when it comes to it, for better and for worse. And for somebody who, let's say, like I'm 33 years old, I'm a dad, I've got all these other responsibilities. And yes, I still enjoy Path of Exile 2 a lot, but it's a very good game for somebody like that to sit down, have a good time blasting through enemies, doing certain things like your torment tiers, getting more upgrades. And if you enjoy this kind of game, I think it really is a lot of fun. And it's something that there's enough variation there, especially with the classes and stuff like that, that you can get a lot of hours out of what they've got put in here. And I really want to take some time to kind of like go over some of the stuff they've changed and do some of that stuff with you, give you why guys an idea of why I kind of think that way. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about was the skill tree rework. They talked a lot about them reworking the skill tree and I guess trying to make more impactful choices and stuff like that along the line. But honestly, it doesn't really feel like it's that much different than what it was before. I can kind of recognize that they do have more choices and different options as you kind of go along. I've been playing a warlock so far, and I've been focusing on like a demonology type build, and it is very easy to understand. Now there that has always been one of the strengths of Diablo 4 skill tree. There really isn't a lot of digging that you have to do to get there, but because of that, it kind of lacks some complexity. As someone who's played both Last Epoch and Path of Exile 2, I kind of prefer Last Epoch skill tree as like a middle ground to those things, but I see the merit in having a skill tree that's as simple as this is in order to just kind of guide people along and let them be able to pick what they want without having to really necessarily use a guide to do something like that. Because, like something like Path of Exile, if you're a new player, you absolutely 100% pretty much need to use a guide to understand the skill tree there because it's super overwhelming at a first glance, especially if you're someone more casual. But something that really kind of rubs me the wrong way about the skill tree expansion and everything they did with it was the fact that they took some of the skills and the rebalancing of these classes and locked them behind the Lord of Hatred expansion. Because I feel like there's enough in this expansion, like the two new classes, the end game systems, the campaign, the seasonal content, everything that they've got going on here is enough to warrant the $40 price tag they're asking for. I feel like with the way they did things and the way Diablo's Rocky Road has kind of been, I feel like they could have just given those reworks to the initial classes for free and then not really worried about it. I think that would have gone over a lot better. I think that would have shown a lot more goodwill with it. But overall, the skill tree is what it is. I think it's completely like satisfactory, not super complicated, but like the rework isn't that big of a thing. Now, speaking of the campaign, I really enjoyed the campaign for the Lord of Hatred. Now, I was someone who did not really enjoy the Vessel of Hatred that much. I kind of compare Vessel of Hatred to the expansion from Destiny 2 Lightfall, where it felt like we had like a really strong story at one point, and then a story that just kind of meandered as like a setup to get us to the end of the story that they were telling with Destiny. Vessel of Hatred felt the same way to me, but when it comes to the Lord of Hatred, I didn't feel like that at all. Something I really enjoyed about Diablo 4's continual story as we go through everything is just the horror elements that are kind of within the story. There are moments and like areas with like the visual horror and the aspect that can kind of leave you feeling a little like grossed out or uncomfortable, especially like a big thought of mine was like the trailer with Narelle back in the Vessel of Hatred where like her arms and limbs were like splitting apart and stuff like that. I really, really, really like that kind of Diablo. I like the visceral horror. I like that like grim, that dark feeling. I think it's something they really nailed with everything. I was very happy with the way they did the campaign. Some people may have thought that it kind of meandered around or was like a little bit too cinematic or something along those lines. But for me, I enjoyed it. It was fun to play through. Took me like 6 to 8 hours, and I felt like I gave a really good conclusion to it. So I really enjoyed the campaign overall. But of course, after the campaign, we get to the end game where the real meat of a lot of our ARPG games live. And I will say I've really, really enjoyed the end game. They've added some new systems here that I've had a lot of fun with, starting with probably my favorite thing, the Herodic Cube. This cube pretty much allows you to make any item you want or change items to other items, reroll items. It adds so much value to the crafting system. So, like just as a small example, whites become valuable now because you get like a common item that you normally would maybe just throw away, and then you can take and you can add an affix to it. And then it's gonna be a magic item, and then you can add an affix to that, and it'll become a rare. Or if you're farming for a specific unique item, you can take it with the right material and just go straight to unique. Like, for example, like this, you transmute, boom, it becomes the Dirge of Odium. We get a unique just like that. And the coolest thing is you don't really have to think too much about this kind of stuff because when you throw an item in the Herodic Cube, it's going to light up the stuff that it can be used with. So you don't really have to wonder, oh, like which one of these can I do, which ones can't I do. It's going to tell you, okay, you have chaotic reroll, focus reroll, remove an affix, and everything is right there for you to be able to see exactly how those things work. And on top of that, you get these little items that allow you to basically target affixes that maybe you want to remove or put on an item. So if you want resistances, do you want offensive attributes? Do you want defensive attributes? Now it can take you a little bit of time to figure out which one those are, but I mean you can just look it up, you Google it, it won't be that hard. And then you can really start tinkering with items and making your own items relatively easily. And it is just awesome. And that's probably one of the best things, like I said, that they've added within this expansion, being that little Herodic cube. Now, something else they added within this expansion was this talisman system that basically allows you to slot charms into a talisman that give your character extra power. But the thing I thought that was really neat about this is a lot of these charms function as sets. So, like you can see here, I'm using Horizon's chains, and I have a set bonus that comes from it. But taking this off of the gear and moving it into another place to give you another form of something you can farm and another source of power, I thought was a really good idea. I really like that quite a bit, especially because a lot of these charms and stuff like that can drop as like ancestral versions, and you can re-roll the stats on them within the Herodic Cube. So it gives you just another item to be able to chase and to kind of essentially power up even further. I've seen that there are like mythic, unique Roderick seals and stuff like that as you go up the torment ladder and everything. So this is just another system that actually I think ended up being really cool that I didn't really see a lot on before I started the expansion, but I've actually come to really like it quite a bit. The last big major change I feel like they really added were the war plans, which are a really cool system that basically allows you to kind of like plot your own path through the end game for the most part. So there's been a lot of different activities that have been added through Diablo, it seems like, over the course of the expansions and stuff like that. And this just kind of gives you a direction to be able to go through them all, along with getting extra rewards. So you can kind of see you'll do like a nightmare dungeon, then you're going to do the Kurast Undercity, do another Kurast Undercity if you want, cleanse of the pit, and then do some Hell Tides. Now, these can be re-rolled if you don't like what you see, and they do come in different variants, whether it's magic, rare, legendary, stuff like that. But the other nice thing is these war plans, as you do them, you get experience, and these experience go into this tree over here that kind of reminds me of like the Atlas tree from Path of Exile, just like a simpler version of it. And those things will essentially buff or change the way some of your encounters work. So, like, see, Nightmare Dungeon, I have treasure goblins have a small chance to drop a Nightmare Sigil with the treasure breach affix, which is neat. And then every time you kill 30 elites, it can reveal a Herodic altar, which gives you more loot. And this just adds like an extra sense of progression into what you're doing, which I think is really fun. And it's a kind of a neat thing because if you're someone who has been away from the game for a long time, I think there's a lot of these activities that you may not be familiar with that now you get to be introduced to, that you get to do. I'm sure there's an optimal way to do them. I don't really care about that much. I'm someone who just really is like, is it fun? I think most of the activities are fun. I've enjoyed doing them all. And honestly, the best thing about this entire thing is if you're someone who remembers the very origin of Diablo 4 and the launches with these nightmare dungeons where you had to pop a sigil, run all the way there, do all that stuff. I know it's something they have fixed a long time ago, but you can just hit one button and you teleport directly to the activity. That's all it takes. You talk to Tyrael, get your plan, hit the button, boom, you're there. And it's very smooth, very streamlined. And I really enjoyed doing this a lot. I can just run these basically all day. It's a ton of fun. Now, these things on top of some of the reworks and stuff like that they've done over the seasons have made me really feel like Lord of Hatred is definitely the best Diablo's ever been. Like, just the idea that they moved some of the power into the seasonal tab as you complete these objectives and stuff like that feel way more natural than, having to go around the whole world and collecting little statues and all that kind of stuff you did before, as well as like some of the crafting stuff they've done over time with masterworking and tempering and everything. It just makes the game feel more just enjoyable to play overall. It makes it feel smoother. It makes it feel really fun to me. And I think Diablo 4 kind of really fits in this interesting kind of niche where they've made a ARPG that feels very seamless, kind of simple. It's just fun to play. It's fun to go through, hit enemies, get stronger, blast more enemies, see more loot drops, see number go up, feel good in the brain. You know what I'm saying? What we all play the ARPGs for, and just kind of keep playing. And before there wasn't enough to me to feel like it would hold my attention. But now with like all the classes and all the extra changes and stuff like that they've made, I could see myself playing through again on another class, maybe like one or two more times, because like that's the beauty of it, right? You can sit down with Diablo, let's say you get off work or you get done, like get the kids to bed, whatever it is, play for a couple hours, and then feel like you've made some meaningful progress. Your time feels pretty well respected. And then you can go and you can do it again and you can do it again. And you don't just have to be grinding and grinding and grinding all the time. And I think that's what I really enjoy about Diablo for the Lord of Hatred the most is just that kind of aspect to it. Now, Path of Exile 2 still probably my favorite ARPG in the genre right now, but I've really, really enjoyed my time with Diablo 4. So it's one of those things where, especially if you're coming into Diablo brand new, maybe you don't have the game yet, the amount of content that you get for the price they're asking, I feel like is completely worth it. And I feel like the expansion itself is completely worth it as well. I feel like there's a couple of things they could have done better, but overall, I think it's a fun expansion. I think it's really enjoyable. Will it stand the test of time when PoE 2 comes out if you're someone who wants something more complex and stuff like that? Maybe not, but I think you'll get a lot of fun out of it. I think you'll have a ton of enjoyment out of the time you do get with Diablo. So I would completely recommend it. I think it's an enjoyable experience. And if you guys are interested in the build I'm running with like the demonologist and stuff like that, I can totally go over that with you guys as well. I can leave a video on it or leave a link for it for you guys. But those are just kind of my thoughts and stuff like that. I've been a big RPG fan for a long time. So if you enjoyed it, if you'd like to see more videos like that, let me know. I'm happy to cover any RPGs. I have a ton of fun with them. So thanks for sticking around this long. And if you got some value, please like and subscribe. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.